Esky, we good? All right, hectic. So obviously we're kicking it off. Pay respects to the traditional custodians of the land, Gadigal people, and pay mad respects to the elders, past, present, and future. We're going to kick it off as well with my man here, P.Smurf.
My man Lee Monro. Thanks for having me down.
Man, absolute pleasure, and man, thanks for making it happen in a little bit of short notice. We had to move, and
Happy to.
we already had you on the books, but you know you pulled it forward. So we're going to kick it off with that hoodie there.
Oh yeah,
That one's yours.
I was eyeing it off, and it's matching my red attire today. Which
Yeah,
is
I
really good.
thought you were going to wear that attire.
Man, you just knew.
Yeah. So that's yours, man. You know,
Thank
do with
you.
it as you please.
Oh, fresh.
Just don't use it as toilet paper if you can avoid it.
No, we're stocked up, fully stocked. Not fully stocked. We've just got enough for ourselves.
It's like you don't want to be like punching people in Shalora over toilet paper, you know.
That was crazy. No, we're good. We haven't been hoarding or anything. We're just getting the essentials that we need, you know. And but staying hygienic,
Staying fresh.
yeah, staying clean.
You know the deal. Now, I want to man. The thing was when I was putting it together, I had to think, right? So you're artist, obviously MC. You've been label owner, yeah. A&R. You know, you've directed things. I'm sure clips and stuff like that. You're a promoter, bro. You're an activist. You know, collaborator. You've been a solo artist, but you've been involved with reputable acts. You know, Daily Meds. You know, Reverse Polarity, Sketch to Rhyme.
Yeah.
Had a couple of solo releases, man, and dude, as far as MCs go, like, you're just a dude that everyone knows, man. Like, big respect, you know.
Cheers, my man.
But you know, all that aside, obviously, I had to start from somewhere, you know. And one thing that I was thinking as I was like putting stuff together is like, dude, I actually don't know much about you. Like coming up, one thing for myself, watching MCs. I mean, you know, I've been around for a little bit of a time as well,
No doubt.
And so, like, unfortunately, like, there's a few, like, people that have come up and are real, like, figures in the scene, but I just really don't know their history, and this has been a blessing for me to be able to, you know, learn about people like yourself. So I wanted to know, man, like, what area did you come up in, and you know, where you grew up in, and you know, school, stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, school is where we, you know, started kicking raps. I think for a lot of people. I grew up in Erskineville, and via Newtown. Ended up at Newtown Primary and Newtown High School after going to a Steiner school in Leichhardt, where the Leichhardt Forum is for the first couple of years. Didn't work out too well for me. I wasn't really the depth to that style of schooling at the time. It wasn't working for me. It harnessed my sister Billy Rose's creative juices a lot, like amazing visual artist, but took me a lot longer. You know, graffiti's kind of the only visual art that I've ever had any sort of skill with, and even that took me 20 odd years to get you know, any decent pieces out. But yeah, so Erskineville, parents had a record store on King Street till I was 6, like a secondhand record store. So I got to chill there till the end of the night, and then go back down to Urco, and then all around that hood. Newtown High School is where I was playing bass guitar and doing drama, and not too shortly after getting in there was starting to bust raps with a couple of the lads in the years above me, Bloods from Reverse Polarities and Mute MC that I ended up meeting, who was from out west, but I guess we're fast tracking. But yeah, through Newtown I met Kit Complete and Luds and Kit and Willarai. She put me onto Mute MC when I was about 15, and then started getting on from there. But yeah, deeply rooted in the inner west, and still rocking in Surrey Hills, but Newtown for life, and 2043 Urco's my hood.
Dope.
Big shout out to all the Urco boys.
Yeah,
Much
man.
love.
And that inner west line, like back in the days, like that was the main line for like a lot of graffiti.
Yeah.
You know, hip hop really has like a firm foundation on, you know, in that inner west, you know what I mean?
100%. Like we would crash out and wake up at 5 a.m. or 4 a.m. to run and do Urco line or McDonaldtown, Newtown, you know, and I was painting well before I was rhyming. And as I said, was quite horrible, but used to kick it with a couple of the crew.
So that was your
My
tag.
man Rolio from Daily Meds.
Yep.
Shout out. I was my boy since I was about 6 or 7. We both went to both those schools together, and so we were painting together with him and Darker, and he was connected with the KBM boys, Deckers, a couple of those crew ended up, Jimmy Nice, Solo, and Loopy, all those boys painting with their old crew. So I linked up with them through Rolio and that crew, and that extended that Inner West sort of circle. My older sister was in a drama company with Solo's older brother, Asper.
That's
so
crazy.
I ended up seeing Solo at the airport when I was probably like 11, when they were heading overseas together. So I remember so it's all sort of simmered up over the years, but all through that extended sort of Newtown, Leichhardt, 4th Street Connect, and mad love for the one days, and mad love for reverse polarities.
Which is crazy to me, dude, because I'm like West, so, and this is probably like an element that like seeing like the Inner West guys, you sort of don't connect the dots as to like how people sort of know each other. You know what I mean? But everyone's sort of tight and crew. But like coming from the West, you sort of look like, whoa, the Inner West dudes have like a strong sort of like bond, and
it's a bubble bond,
bro. Yeah. But the other thing is you know what's crazy is like the other thing out West that I noticed was that you weren't really like, you didn't necessarily paint, if you were on the mic, or you didn't necessarily, you're on the mic, you wouldn't necessarily touch the decks, or you know what I mean? Yeah. Everyone was sort of really like, the B-boys were the B-boys, the graph guys are the graph guys, you know what I mean? Where I noticed that, like, from an element standpoint, it's almost like the Inner West guys really got their hands dirty in a couple of ways, you know what I mean? Like
culturally, like it was hip hop as a whole, I still think then, and there was like a lot of people running classes around the youth centers. Mystery was a mentor for so many people doing b-boy classes. Rappaport went to all his classes. Doing your graffiti classes around the spot. I know Swarmy came up in a lot of out West and Inner West to connect. But
I went to school with Swarmy.
Yeah, well there you go.
Yeah,
exactly.
Crazy.
But I'm sure he was connected with Mystery at that time. But I'm sure that was probably
he was Bankstown. So that's Mystery's Bankstown born and bred. But I think early days, like, he would have had to head in to really get part of like the culture. Whereas out West, you didn't really get it as much.
I'm sure he was running classes in the West as well, and he was definitely putting up murals all through Urco.
Like,
I grew up just looking at all his shit. So, but having that graph centralized Inner West area that was full of graphs, so it was like you saw that and you're like, well, you want to be a part of the graph, and then you're like, what does that lead to? It's part of hip hop as a whole. It's the part of the elements, and then the DJing and b-boying was still there. I guess the b-boy element kind of slid out, but not as a whole, but it within the hip hop scene, you didn't quite see that
prominent.
As much. Yeah, being prominent. But I think graph and rap was so linked in that area of early 2000s, mid 2000s, gigs, even pop, going to all those. It was always the lads running around with and there was beef with the graphers, and then they started
beef
spitting.
With the graphers was crazy.
But then they started spitting. It was like, well, we can do this.
Less punch-ons, more kick-ons.
Oh yeah, that's it. Please, as a message to everyone, less punch-ons, more kick-ons. Late night.
It's, bro, what's hectic to me as well, like, I didn't obviously know about the early association with the folks and the record store, so that's crazy. But obviously being so early, I don't know. What was your first, I suppose, experience with, because, man, seeing you from the outside, you're definitely someone's very involved in many aspects, but what was your first experience with hip-hop particularly? Was it graph, or, like, what made you sort of want to, start becoming, like, really involved, and how old were you?
Well, if we go, firstly, the first connection with hip-hop was definitely, I now realise, so due to my parents, that even when I took it on as my own thing after being like rock punk sort of kid, I was like, Tribe Called Quest got me into that, and that was my, when I heard Tribe Called Quest, I was like blown away. I thought, can I kick it on a rage night hosted by 28 Days, and it was like they played Can I Kick It? I was just like, this is some bullshit. This is so cool and chill and peaceful, but like hard. But then and I'd always quoted that as my time, but like of what really put it over. But going back to it, my parents played some really dope songs. Hip hop wasn't a genre for them that they would even, potentially mention or as a thing. It was like, we play hip hop. That wasn't their thing. They had quite a vast array, but the songs that they play were like, Eric B and Rakim, Paid in Full. They had Mr. Bob Dobalino on their 7-inch on the jukebox at home. So I was listening to tracks like that as a really young age, and De La Soul, Say No Go, the 7-inch for that. Fuck the Police. We'd be playing that. And
what a track for the parents to be like,
straight them up, and it's like they were like, this is a good song, and like even the story about that getting played on Triple J for like 24 hours when it came out. They just played it on repeat. I don't know. I'm sure that
True, Mom.
So like that was a big. But no, they played the good, and Public Enemy.
Yep.
That definitely.
Things with a message though as well, obviously, because all those had a message behind them.
Yeah, and they were good quality artists, for sure. But LL Cool J, I really loved him growing up as well. And like I remember making little posters for like LL Cool J, like in MS DOS, like or whatever, like just
MS Paint, MS Paint.
Yeah. So
you didn't have a large array of text or font options back then. Helvetica and maybe one other.
It was some really cool looking.
But you could stretch it.
Yeah.
Word art.
It had like a little Ferrari horse next to it or some shit. It was looking good. But let's say even that, Mama said knock you out. So that was getting played, and it was already in my headspace. But then when I felt like I discovered it, but then beyond that, Billy, my sister, she's 3.5 years older than me. Shout out Billy Rose. I remember her playing The Roots, Do You Want More when it come out. I remember, early parts of her playing Jurassic 5, Black Eyed Peas, Bridging the Gap. So that hooked it onto me, and then I started delving into New York, East Coast hip hop, and it was just couldn't get enough. Yeah, hard. And I left all my rock roots behind. I left all my pretty
You're still
much,
musical though, like there's still
broad.
like I noticed that you still perform a little bit broader than just a mic and a set of decks, like you're not shy of getting live with some instruments and
100%, 100%, and want to not box myself off like that. I love being able to get creative on heaps of different shit, but that straight raw element of boom bap sample based hip hop is still always, I feel, going to be entrenched in my mentality. But as an artist, you shouldn't be necessarily caged off to anything just at the head for some old heads,
But we don't need to address the old heads. But
I am the old head now, apparently. Fucking hell, what happened? Shout out to all the old heads. Love you, dude.
Bro, we're starting to get
up.
I gotta check myself from being an old head every now and then. Sometimes you just feel like being like, but back in my, you'd be like, yo, shut the fuck up. Back in my fucking day, my ass.
I still feel like a fucking kid, man, and I definitely, still act like it sometimes too, but.
Big ups to acting like a kid.
It keeps you happy, man, and it keeps you young and youthful. But I attribute A Tribe Called Quest to my, real schooling.
Yeah, hectic. What about locally, right? Because the other thing is for me is that a lot of us gain, particularly for you, bro, because like that makes sense for me. You growing up musically, hearing a lot of American hip hop, because there's a thing that stands out for me with artists here. And it's like flow. And flow really comes from, I feel like, a musical standpoint, whereas a lot of people just can rap and become like crazy syncopated. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So it makes a lot of sense. The other thing that I wanted to go into was maybe, those Australian influences, because here 100%. It's so small. We all get a lot of time with each other because we turn up. Sometimes might not see each other for 6 months, but then I might see you fucking, which happened relatively recently, with all the 2-ups and the Lansdowns and the freshly squeezed that asked if I could rock. So big props for that. But, then we might see each other fucking 4 or 5 times in 2 or 3 weeks, right? Yeah. But who was some, I think, like maybe influential artists or acts here that, like, for example, bro, I saw you kicking it with Sarek at his 50th the other day. That was that's, big ups to Death Wish. But
I love that, man.
Who do you think were some good mentors and early acts that you got associated with that maybe helped you, I don't know, get a bit of a leg up either artistically or maybe getting on some mics, being able to rock some shows? Like, who could you attribute maybe some props to for that?
Man, lots of stuff pops to mind when you say it. Initially, I do. The first time I saw hip hop in Australia by local crew was the Herd. So Aussie
True.
Battler and Earth Boy doing
Earth Boy.
Newtown Festival, like early
Fuck.
days Newtown Festivals,
Yep.
early 2000s it must have been, and they kicked off E-Tracks, Elephant Tracks, shout out, in the late 90s, and they would have been doing it not long after, and I always remember Aussie Battler like tipping a beer into his bucket hat, or someone tipping a beer into someone's bucket hat and him drinking it, and me just being like, this is fucking
This is
cool.
my life. I want to be part of that life.
And they're singing mad tunes. I was like, this is ill. And I knew that was like a cool local hip hop act. And then I got into like year 9, and I got boys at school 9 or 10, and they're throwing me like Reason and Bias B
Some
and
Melbourne shit.
Brad Strutt
And how was this getting? This was like
Train of Thought from Adelaide as well.
cassettes
So
or discs?
I was getting burnt CDs.
Burnt CDs, yeah, true.
That were,
Sorry,
off
sorry,
all-
Obese and any associates that were jacking the CDs, but this is how it
sorry,
is.
Pegs.
Sorry, Pex.
Yeah, I bought enough Obese CDs to contribute.
True.
But yeah, but in that stack, I remember my boy Matty, who was in my year, Matty and Jap, when we used to start thrashing it, and then like those strong accents were really like, wow, this is so different to the American stuff, because I was also thrashing Bone Thugs and Tupac and Biggie, as well as a lot of the sort of more boom bappy, just straight up. There's a whole array, but it was definitely American music. Shout out to Smiley Culture, some English hip hop that I definitely grew up on as well,
Yep,
some back in the day. But yeah, I think Hijack and Torture, like
Big
that.
ups.
Hijack,
Yep.
big ups to my man Jack, and Torch, and Bones, as we were saying off screen before, another legend. But in that same era of maybe 2003, and I'm getting those CDs, and I'm just like, wow, this is the scene, and it's huge.
And it started to get so much better in a short period of time.
Yeah, just music picking up, and and it was big, and Culture Kings albums, those releases that were coming out were just like ill, and that Draft, Downslide, all different crews, Pegs, listen to Capricorn Cat when that come out, I was like, this is huge, some of these albums, were just big banging, and Obese definitely had its sound, but I loved the E-Track stuff that was coming out, and other things that I was getting my hands on, from Syllabolics to, Queensland crew, but and
Lazy
then
Grey.
yeah, no doubt.
Bro.
So shout out 750 Rebels, Lazy Grey.
Yep.
But then as a artist locally, my sister was going out with Rappaport, so I linked up with Rappaport. As I was saying, Reverse Polarities, that was out western suburbs connection with Mute, introducing me to Mick Owen, introducing me to Deathless. Yeah, big up to all the crew, to the RP crew, and then so that sort of linked up, and then Rappaport's doing stuff at the Lansdowne, and then he's like, come to the Lansdowne. I meet Benji and
PK.
Yeah, big ups to Ben. I met Benji probably when I was 17, sneaking into shit at the Lansdowne.
True.
He was already there, like rocking it hard. He's around my age as well, so it was like 2005. Jeremedy, Grey Ghost, I was jumping on stage with him around that time as well. Rivals was still hosting. My man, That's What I Reckon, was beatboxing with Rivals up the back. Like, this is GPS was running gigs down there, and all the Purebred. Yeah, Dave. So yeah, that era, that for me, that was wow. Now we're in it, and it's local, and people are spitting bars, people are freestyling, like lads are hanging out, getting in biffs, and Lansdowne was still
Lansdowne was the spot,
Lansdowne
though.
was the spot, and then
100%.
down to the Lookup crew. So Binge Thinkers start popping off, Scotty Burns, that's them, all of that. So that started going into that, but yeah, so I don't know. I'm just ringing off names now.
No, I know, but it's sort of making me think, because bro, like I'm thinking of like Nurture. Remember Shrek and Nurture? And them trying to do that independent thing.
And they popped up for a bit.
And they popped up for a bit.
Well, Mind Over Matter came out of that too.
Coptic Soldier.
Yeah.
Which is, he's doing big things as well,
Yeah,
and other things,
he's doing really well for himself at the moment, which is great, and still heavily involved in the music scene.
100%. Shout out to Luke. But that's sort of a perfect sort of segue actually, because obviously you've got this association with Rappaport, and Mick and you got all these sort of broader associates starting to push to out west, and then Big Village, how does that start, like from someone like you know, you're coming up, you're meeting all these people, you're getting a rep, and then you know, you start to piece together what, you know, you want to be a label. And to be quite honest, back then the mentality of like, it still wasn't really independent. You know, it was really, we still were on the cusp of like coming out of, you know, downloads were starting to affect sales quite considerably, and people just blowing out their fucking computers with LimeWire. Yeah. Big shout out to LimeWire for fucking about 3 PCs of mine. That was really good. But so what made you? Yeah, right. I've seen a meme where it was just like LimeWire, like it was some fucking building getting blown up, and then like a tank, and it was like my PC and LimeWire. Like that was basically my fucking PC. Yeah, but how
downloading, mate?
Napster, bro, you name it. Like if one wasn't fucking your PC, you'd go to another one. You'd be like, nah, this one will be alright, and then it's the same thing. But
it was a weird time.
How'd you transition into that, bro? And how did the label come about? And you know, because you guys were fucking strong, like and a real bit of a cornerstone for particularly Sydney. We didn't have a label really like that.
Yeah, well, E-Trax was definitely going strong, and I think one of the reasonings behind, I think, us all getting together and becoming that conglomerate and collective that then turned into a label, which was the initial idea was definitely because we knew that there was only so many people that Elephant Tracks would take on, or that Obese Records could take on.
Right?
You know?
Before they started to become under the rug.
You know, we'd be at all their gigs. Rappaport was always at their gigs, you know? It was like, you know, and then Fundamentals moved down just up the road from us in Newtown, so I boosted from Urco with my folks in about 2006, and then moved up the road up to Newtown, not too far. But then the boys moved in next door, and I met Tucker through Rum Punch and through doing like little mini festival circuits around Sydney, so like the Duffy Festival, old school ones, and then Jesse comes into those, you know, the gigs, and Jesse's just, you know, these boys are the legends, and they're up the road, and we're getting stoned together, and starting to rhyme, and then we're all mateys. True Vibe Nation, I met them through the Leichhardt Connect, but they're Western Suburbs lads as well, and they'd come out through some of my old mates from around the area, and then Loose Change, you know, LSY, he's a Newtown lad as well, southeast / Newtown. So it was just by that point we were just like, well, we're all already really mates. We've got about 13 of us. We're doing gigs together all the time, like, and maybe E-Trax ain't gonna sign us, or maybe Obese don't want this.
You can't wait for too long, right?
But Thunders had just got onto Obese, which is dope, and that just started to skyrocket them. But independently as well, they're just like, let's fam this out, and let's create this kind of network where we can pool our resources, promote each other online, use the platforms that are social media now, but also use our word of mouth and use our brains and our connections to be able to go, hey, let's do these tracks together, let's put out records together, let's collab on stuff. Joel was a big spearhead and continued to be and still is to this point. You know, he's running BV at this point, but as it started, it was a 13-person collective, Suburban Dark as well, who were in Joel's band, The Phonies. So all of them, we were all playing together, working together, and we're just like, let's start doing this. So for that, you know, first 5 years, we were all kind of working as a unit and putting out records together, and, you know, doing what we did best and individually trying to contribute to this overall collective and vibe, and it's, you know, still kicks on to this day and still rolling through. It's just you know, everyone grew to a point where they can then excel as solo artists and be able to create their own versions, or be able to go and do that. You know, True Vibe Nation, bigger and better, or groups potentially dissipate, or, you know, go on hiatus, or just, you know, agree not to keep performing together. So, you know, there's always, time changes things, and it adapts, and we adapt. But at the same time, we're trying to get into selling CDs like heavily, and we're just at the end of CDs. So that 2010 to, like, you know, which is, we were getting rid of, some were going off, but then some. Yeah,
some of the merch, like some of the shirts and the merch, particularly the clothes and shit, you guys were really solid for, bro. Like,
and Dean Beverly and Number 19, who did a whole bunch of design for us, as well as Sam Clouston, who's doing scratches with us.
I found a Big Village cap the other day, I think I got from your launch.
Well, that was supporting us as a label, really. Like, out of over 25 odd releases that we've done, there'd only be a handful of those that made money. Some, decent, but then when you're splitting that between artists, Meds was making, we were selling pretty well. L Esquire, Suburban Dark, but a lot of them, we'd get rid of numbers, but to try and recoup 20K, it can be hard,
It's not easy,
and you're putting in that much money to these records.
Yeah.
Like, we're mixing, mastering these quality, like, artwork, video clips. Like, we're putting in, dedicated time and hours and finances. So to try and recoup that on CDs, and then going into vinyl, we're starting to get into selling vinyl as well, which is another expensive aspect. But then we should probably be going hard out on the streaming. But at that time, you don't know what's going on. There's like so many things popping up. It's like, and now, you look back at it, you want to, it'd be great if we got ahead of the game on the streaming services and all the playlisting and everything like that. But, we still really love the physical aspect, and we're still traditionalists in a lot of the stuff that we did and the ways we did it. And I'm going to, we are continuing that, as a whole in my general aesthetic and as the label, and, into the future, I think, continuing with the vinyls and the tapes and this and that, but I don't CDs, maybe not CDs. I think that's kind of dead now, but who knows what's going to...
But everyone loves that retro shit. People are fucking buying cassettes, bro. Big shout out to fucking Reign Supreme.
Did you see that the other day? Oh,
he fucking kills the cassettes.
Oh, man.
I remember catching up with Rappaport at your show, and I think this was for The Story So Far. Was that a bang?
The Story So Far, the EP.
Yeah. Was that with the comic, with the Smurf?
No, that was
comic?
2013. So it was an EP. Like, I did that Smurf Village in 2011. Or
might have been that
12, and
no,
then
it might have been
the EP
13.
in 2013, which is pretty much an album. Like, again, it was 30 minutes. People are dropping 20 seconds on it to call it a release.
Yeah, I know. Fuck, that's another story altogether.
But no. Yeah, that was 2013. And then the mixtape, the Champion Sound was the first comic book that we did in 2015.
True, yeah. It must have been for that then. But I just remember talking to him, and sort of like to the point was, and I think this is like a realistic thing, and I like to bring it up because, I remember speaking to him, and, Village was dying, not dying down, but like, people had, moved on for whatever reason, la.
Yeah.
And it was essentially just
getting tough.
And it was essentially just you and Rappaport, right?
Yeah, well, it went from all of us, trying to balance a management system, which, a lot of the, weight got left onto Joel as he was taking a lot of the work as well, because, he's that kind of character, and, he's a really hard worker. But then it went to me, Rolio, Becky, from True Vibe Nation. The four of us were managing it, and then those two sort of stepped back after a couple. Oh, and Clue was doing it with us there. So there was a good five of us that was rocking it for a couple of years there, and then it stripped back down to me and Joel. And now I stepped back and started Scratches, and now Joel's, taking on BV and keeping that rolling as well. So, but at a different pace, it's just a different time. He's focusing on his music heavily now, which you probably put to the
side a bit.
To side,
which is
as you do when you're doing business, and he put in a lot.
Bro, fucking big team player, bro. Shout out to Rappaport,
man. Hard out.
And this might be a little bit crazy, but shout out to Soul Benefits, the one release that we never got.
Yeah, well, we never got to put it out, but the boys on the team, and it was so dope having them out, and we put out a couple of singles. They got on the 5th birthday vinyl, which was dope to get them on. That Step Up tune was really wicked, and it was just dope to link with those dudes.
Angel,
with Z's cousins, right?
Yeah.
26 Letter legend, who's just just above and beyond, just going in leaps and bounds, and he's always been such an intensely hardworking, focused dude.
Fucking loves it.
He loves it, and he was doing workshops that Vully from True Vibe Nation were running.
Yes,
and so that's how we linked up with him. And Vully's like, check these lads out. We're like, damn.
And
Randy's managing him as well, so we're like,
Yep.
let's get those boys on. And it was great linking and doing the shows that we did. And Z also did home base for us for years as well, held that down for us. There's lots of gigs, and so those
actually I'm gonna ask a question because this just popped in my mind. Did me and Ella do a gig with you at
the Waywards one?
No,
you did do that one, but
no, true. Because I'm pretty sure you're the first person that put me on the fucking 10th Dan.
Oh yeah, no, maybe at Was that in Newtown as well?
No, it was in
Well, he's Big Village crew, and who knows?
And who knows, bro?
Well,
like
who knows the Mountains lads?
they're fucking killing it right now.
Bro, man, I went.
10th Dan. I remember you telling me about 10th Dan, just to say, right? Because I got to tell you, right?
Shout out to 10th Dan, Moonface. Cop that release. Go listen to
that.
Yeah,
right? Because I remember it was so funny, man. Like I just got this bit of one of these moments, like what the fuck, like I remember you going like, yo, you gotta. We were at this gig and he's like, you actually grabbed me, and I remember you were like, yo, you fucking got to check this guy out, right? Because he's fucking dope. And I remember seeing him, and he was a bit like sort of like wild and loose and just And I remember watching him going, fuck, okay. And then I just fucking didn't see him. And then just recently, I was with Crispy shooting the Seasons clip. Yeah. And he was just listening to some shit, and I'm like, yo, who the fuck's that? So, bro, you heard of 10th Dan? I'm like.
Actually,
yes, I have.
He's elusive. He's slipped in and out of the radar. And now he's popping off with some really cool releases. He's dropped 2 albums this year after not putting out a full project on his own.
Yep.
At all. But
did he get anything off with Big Village?
Nah. No, 10 years he was on practically every release as a feature.
I was gonna say, yeah.
And he did all our shows with us for 10 years as well. But I mean,
like the music industry, like trying to get
music industry is also personal shit. It's like he has projects that he didn't want to release, and there was things going on in his life that he needed to get through before he was willing to be able to put, put that music out or put his story out. So he's at a stage, he's at the best stage that I've seen him in his life. He's just had a beautiful kid, and
true.
He's kicking it. And shout out to 10th Dan. I've got so much love for that lad, and he's, but that's it. I think people forget that as artists we got a whole bunch of other shit going on other than just getting to the raps or getting to the beats and getting to the even though our lives are usually based around that, we've still got to make sure everything else maintains and make sure our personal relationships and our mental health and our lives, and our bank balance stays in order, which is fucking hard.
Just keep just a couple of rolls of toilet paper on the shelf. That's all we are. Okay, so the other thing was, and like I've really, I've looked to you, really positively, man, and I've even reached out every now and then and be like, yo, man, can I get some help with, like the promoting side for it, like. How is it? Because you're one of the key artists on there, and one of the guys with the rep, and someone that everyone else sort of looks to. But how is it touring your guys and being responsible for everyone else? But then still having to turn up and fucking. Because, bro, like, it's for anyone that hasn't seen this guy perform, bro, it's fucking wildly entertaining. It's interactive. It's engaging. You're never going to be fucking bored. And he's got, flow for days. Like, I don't need to urinate in your pocket anymore, right? But...
I appreciate that intro. It was mad to listen to, man, from a dude like such as yourself. So I appreciate you getting me here and giving us props, man. But...
how do you do it though? Like, how do you tour and be responsible for everyone, but then ultimately try to push yourself?
Well, I think even within last year, it's like make sure you have your rehearsals laid out so you're confident with your live set. And if you're confident with your live set, you should be able to go in there and smash it, and then usually put that to the very last end of thinking until you're on stage almost, or you're backstage warming up. But I definitely, Joel held it down with Big Village in terms of all, doing these tours. I was definitely played the artist card when it came down to doing some of this shit, and I was a bit more flippant and loose, and
certainly some loose nights.
Late to the bus, late to the tour bus, or not there at all. And
I'll make my own way back, fellas. Thank you. Cheers.
I'm 32, and it's funny saying that. I feel 22, but I am 32, which is, taken me a long time to get to a point where I'm probably a lot more focused and centered and a bit more mature about how I go around the business elements of things like touring, making sure everyone's in line and making sure we get everything done, and then focus on my artwork or my, but I think I've got time to do that, and I'm a people person, and I like being able to be, hands-on, and I think I've got things to offer. So if me and Cost have rehearsed, you know, we're fine. We bang on. We're like, we good? Yeah, sweet. So we'll be sweet in 5
Plus,
days.
you've been doing it for a long time,
Yeah,
so like, you know,
and I know I'm in the best hands when it goes to DJ Cost. So it's like we're ready
Shout
to
out to
go.
Cost.
And if we've got to get the sound, get the lighting done, make sure this dude's on stage and stage manage and blah blah blah. It's like it's coming more second nature to me because I've got a mental checklist in my mind from organising events since I was 17.
Fuck,
so it's like
17.
You know, it's like that's or helping to, and then then starting
experience.
to put on my own. You know, Freshly Squeezed kicked off in 2000 and
I love Freshly Squeezed, man.
Yeah, so
Freshly
Squeezed
Squeezed
took us a while to get there, but you know we collabed with RP and I'm putting on gigs, and then just getting that experience and then being able to put it in practice. It's like we know what we're doing now. So.
I've literally the format, the artwork, the quality of Freshly Squeezed. It's probably one of the gigs that I go out of my way to ask to fucking be on, bro. Like, because I feel like you guys definitely have like that eye for quality.
Yeah.
In a couple of elements, bro. Because you actually, and I mean, I'm sort of going off track a little bit here, but one thing I noticed with a lot of the Big Village stuff, but also most particularly you guys, is like there's always integrity in every pocket of the releases, like whether it be the artwork, whether it be the flyer, whether it be the sticker, whether it be the t-shirt, it's not just like some guy down the road throwing or someone piecing together something, you know what I mean? Like it's always like really well thought out. What do you think the biggest influence for that is for you, like in terms of having that eye for detail?
Yeah, look, I guess I do have to credit Rappaport again massively in terms of the BV aesthetic and number 19, we're going for a clear-cut, clean type of visual with the promotion, with the art, with everything that's like had its urban nature to it, and or for lack of a better word, but
it's fucking been drilled into our fucking heads.
That hip hop element, but it's still this nice, clean, and then just going into those details because people want to feel like they're connected with the artist, but then also that we're putting in the effort. I guess I've to and fro. I think aesthetically things got to be beautiful, but I'm a bit of a sloppy person, and you're
a stylish guy, man. Let's be real. There's sometimes style to the grubbiness.
I think, but I do. Yeah, Rappaport definitely had a meticulous eye for detail, and number 19, who does so much of our did Big Village, was a major designer for us. He's he went over it, and he wasn't just gonna chuck a flyer out like that. He worked for Trent Slingshot. He worked for
Trent,
Sam Dutch.
Yeah,
he's like worked for all the crew. Yeah.
Yo.
How did you go about designing Sketch the Rhyme?
Yeah, so shout out to Rappaport again.
Fucking Rappaport, bro.
Yeah,
big shout to but straight up. Rappaport's the dude, bro.
He's an older bro, and I definitely rolled with him on so many projects, But Sketch the Rhyme initially got started in 2008, 2008 in a idea that then in 2009 at Carriageworks formed into an idea that basically he was sitting with Peach, who used to host FBI radio back in the day, James Peach, and Victor Crumb in the drum media was a hip hop writer as well. He was just drawing and he was rapping about what he was drawing. It's like, maybe we can expand on this. And then it was like, well, there's a new thing opened up called Carriageworks. Hopefully that isn't closing down.
True that.
And it was like, well, we live in Hibernian House, which is a sort of creative arts hub.
Yep.
So, Joel was just getting we were rehearsing over there with the phony. So there was artists living there. We were like, maybe we could start a sort of improvised art show where we rap over it. And then, so he called on some people, the Phonies band. He called on myself, the Thundamentals boys, Bravo, Gabby, MC Gabby.
Yeah.
He's a legend. Shout out to Gabby and Scotty. And then we just started getting together and jamming. And then that turned into like, this is like Pictionary. Oh, wow. What other board games can we rip off? Pretty much. And then I was like,
without slapping the name on it.
yeah, without slapping the name on it. And no, we'll just call it, some other stupid version of the name. But yeah, it was
Picture
like
game.
we'd get together a couple of times a week and, have a chill and just like start jamming over these drawings where the band's playing. It was just like, and then it made itself suddenly where like, we're putting big hats on our heads and like doing dead celebrity heads, which is just celebrity heads, but they're dead. and so for those people who don't know, it's artist drawing and we mount the camera above it on the table, then project the drawings on a big screen and then freestyle about it. And then we just turned it into these games. We did that one at Carriage Works and then we started doing weekly gigs at Hibernian that then packed out to like 100, like a weekly or fortnightly or monthly, something like that. They were so often, and then we moved from place to place in Hibernian because we got bigger, and then it was just started blowing up. But basically, it was just team building exercises of us just getting together, getting stoned, and just drawing and making little squiggles and having really cool artists at hand who just wanted to collab and get a cross combination. And then we linked one of the early artists who continued on with us, Claire Nakazawa, who is in Haiku Hands with her sister Mier. So Claire and Mier were in that from the get-go. Sam Clouston, who's DJ Clue from True Vibe Nations, or Clue from True Vibe Nations, younger brother, he was in it from the early days, and now he's the main designer for Scratches Records. As I said, Thundamentals and me and Rappaport, so Tuck and Jess, we were the main 4 MCs, and when we started Big Village from that, so that was definitely a big catalyst for Big Village, and it was also a platform for all the MCs to jump in on. So Beggy and Vully from True Vibes were down there all the time. Ella Squires jumping in, Mick and Mute jumping in. It was just a lot of just the creative sort of burst that was just like, well, this was really fun and different to anything that we've ever seen, and we rolled it out for as long as we could. It's the last couple of years hasn't much been going on, but as I said, like people have their own focuses and different.
True
things
Vibe's
that
fucking busy, man.
Yeah, true. Yeah, that's
True Vibe's
it.
like
That's
overseas,
it.
like often,
But,
really killing it.
Oh man, well they should be in Germany now, but they couldn't get on the plane because all this crazy shit. But yeah, just one more on Sketch the Rhyme, being able to go to different cities and do that game with different artists was some of the most fun gigs I've ever had. Like, you go down, or Earthboy, Dielectrics and The Tongue, they'd be jumping up with us in Sydney. You'd go down, Mantra, 1-6 would be jumping up in Melbourne. We'd be going up north, Coalition Crew, you and Whose Army would be jumping up with us. It's like, you'd be going over to Adelaide, Dialects jumping up with us, going over to Perth, and we got Maths, we got the crew over there. It's just like, it was a really fun place to,
bringing the MCs out though as well,
because
like
testing them, freestyling them, making sure they're grilling them, and making them look like dickheads even more so sometimes than they themselves. So it was a bit of a piss take, and not taking ourselves too seriously, but also flexing on the rhymes and keeping the rhyme serious while having a bit of fun.
Yeah, man,
fucking shout out to the Sketch crew.
So dope, man. It's crazy to hear, and I think that just hearing about obviously the age thing as well, you were talking about just before we went into Sketch the Rhyme and all that, and talking about you being 32 now, have a little bit more clarity and probably having those mental checklists. That transition from Big Village to Scratches, how did that come about, and how did you find it? Because obviously, like I know, obviously, even I think Jeff was asking before, he was sort of saying like, the good thing about you is there's no love lost. It's always for the fucking culture. It's always still like, I've got your back. Like, if you ever need me, just holler. Yeah, so how was that transition into Scratches, and what's your like key focuses with that now?
Look, it was an interesting one because me and Joel, we met through my sister. They were going out, so we'd known each other since 14. So he's my bro. Like, and then we did Sketch the Rhyme together. We did Big Village together. We did Loose Change. Which I, always jamming with like the official non-member, and phonies, he got me to record in my first studio at Sound Heaven, like El Gusto's dad's studio up in the mountains, like proper, like legit joint. But that, you put strain on relationship when you're in a working, friend relationship, you're in a professional, you're in a musician relationship. So, we weren't seeing eye to eye on heaps, on a few things over the last couple of years. And, I potentially wasn't, living up to what his expectations were needed of another partner in the label.
Yeah.
And you know, and he's got his ways of making sure that these things are done and how he'd like to have them done. So at this point, I felt, you know, it was started coming to a stage where we were like, okay, maybe this is how we'll move forward. You know, we'll strip back what we're doing and we'll move forward. And then out of nowhere, I got hit up by Mark Alexander Erber, who's my partner on Scratches. And it was like, look, I'm looking to branch out of the more rock orientated, you know, music that I've been working in and start a sub label. But, you know, obviously you can't just, you know, go, I'm doing hip hop now from a completely outside perspective. So
like you can't just step in the culture like that.
100%.
But that goes both.
Want to
and that goes both
know?
ways. Like, because we would never step out and be like, all right, we're going to do fucking rock now.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, we would never have that like look on it. So
no, and not without at least paying your dues to the scene and the people who created in that area and figuring out how to, you know, get involved or being able to contribute positively to that angle. So, you know, and he's like, look, you know, can we work with BV? It didn't work like that. And so I was like, look, maybe I'll step away and I can start this. And I think if anything, it let Joel be able to, you know, figure out how he's going to move forward with that.
Yep.
And it allows me to be able to take what I've learned onto a new project, so we don't have to step on each other's toes. And we can both have, you know, projects where we can move forward and make our own decisions for, but also, you know, take things in our own ways, which is cool after that many years of doing such, you know. And I felt like I definitely did a lot of, you know, I was his sideman for a lot of times, as well as doing my own thing, as well as doing these projects. But it was time for me to step and take on a bit more weight as well, you know. And as soon as you get out there and you do it, you realize the amount of crazy shit that he was doing that I wasn't, you know, which I knew already.
So
but
have
it's
you
like,
gained,
now
like,
I've got to do that. Now it's like I'm forced to, you know, pick up the slack and learn more about what I already knew, but no, like now do it. And so it's cool. It's definitely, I've, you know, opened my eyes up on a whole bunch of shit. So, you know, to step away, it was like, how do we get the contracts sorted? How do we, you know, 5 years on master license agreements, there's all stock, there's CD stock, and then how do we divide that with daily meds, with reverse polarity, shit like that. So there's bound to be like inner little fucking things that are like, go wrong but it was all sorted. We managed to sort it all out, and, you know, no love lost, as I was saying, you know. I mean, ultimately, I'm not out here to be messing with people or to be fucked with either, you know. So we hold our own and we're all onto it, and we're just, you know, we want to make sure, as first and foremost, relationships are the main reason you're doing any of this, is to have fun with your friends and to be able to make music with your crew. And if you lose sight of that on any regard as an artist, you know, that's when you're not having fun, and that's when you're doing shit for the wrong reasons. So, you know, my prime, you know, point is to make sure that, you know, we're building relationships, and if they're not working, then that's cool, but I'm not hating on people, and I'm not trying to get into a situation where anyone needs to, you know,
punch on.
True that.
But
no, we're
you're
done
right.
with that, right?
But
This is it.
I
What are we
think it's
saying?
true,
It's
but
kick-ons.
less punch-ons, more kick-ons.
Less punch-ons, more kick-ons.
But, and I mean, it's true. I mean, you know, even throughout tonight, you know, you've given, you know, Joel like such fucking big ups, and it's, you know, when it comes like back to like you've known the guy since like, you know, teens, that's when it becomes more family. And I was having this conversation with someone just the other day. I was like, sometimes it's hard to like work with family, because unfortunately you've actually earned the, I don't want to say earned the right, but like, you know, there's a higher percentage chance of you being caught in judging. Right, you know, for better or for worse, and because you know they're like idiosyncratic ways and stuff like that, and you know, so sometimes it is more healthy to step away. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
For the growth of everyone.
100%.
And by the sound, but because the other thing is you know, Big Village certainly still feels there.
Yeah,
you know, just as much as Scratches.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And
yeah,
like you were saying before, man, to see Joel like really get his hands dirty and be able to fucking, you know, put his own shit out, and
he'll get that. He'll get some tunes coming out for you soon too, 100%. And I'm sure there'll be more releases through Big Village, you know, over the years. But the pressure isn't there to just have to do this and do that like we were on that track in it, and that can sometimes get ahead of you now, you know. So with this, it's like we can pace it a little bit differently, figure out how to move forward, you know, in the present time and relate properly to how the industry's changing, how the scene's changing, and how we're changing as people and musicians and artists and what we want to be doing. So, yeah, it's just freed up that. But, yeah, I mean, everything that happens, you know, it's happening. So there's no, you know, going back. I'm positive about everything that's happened so far and how we're going to go into the future.
Yeah,
on
it definitely
all
looks
levels,
good,
so,
man.
yeah.
The other thing I wanted to ask you, because, you know, he all of a sudden, right, like, I mean, you've always, to a degree, been involved in the decision, I don't want to say of the fate of an artist, but, you know, like, who you want to be involved with and you know, how release is going to get laid out and all that. But now, obviously, like you said, that weight's fucking on you. So when you got approached to go, okay, cool, so we're going to start scratches, and you know, you established that. Yeah. Did you already have artists that you were sort of eyeballing or like sort of had on the cards maybe for BV, but it wasn't going to work with BV?
Yeah, well,
how'd you go about that? Like,
actually, yeah, like High Tracks had hit me up when BV was on and like wanted to do that release, and at the time, you know, me and Joel, you know, he didn't want to have anything on his horizon in that sense. So he was, you know, it was like kind of, we can't really do this. You know, we'd had chats with the other side personally as well. You know, so there were with Big Village. I mean, so yeah, that was kind of there. But then we'd sort of decided before the split that, you know, we weren't going to be able to do that. So it was kind of like, well, look, Joel, I'm doing this. Yep. You know, I ran it by him. You know. And, you know, he's happy for me to do what I was going to do. At least he was, in a sense, for me at the time. And I guess, you know, that's what it was. So it was, yeah, there was people we were eyeing off, and there was definitely like artists that we were connected with. And I just really wanted to keep it still connected as a whole to fam and friends. But, yeah, also be able to branch out a little bit. Like Fresh Violet hit me up for a feature on her album, and I got to meet her, and I loved her vibe and energy and kick and freeze, and her enthusiasm is sick, and I could see that she's just only getting better and better as a rhymer and a performer. You know, Platypush and Codex, we were already working. They did the album for me, and you know, big ups to the legends. P.Push and Codex have been down on the Beats crew for years and years. So and then been on my team and on the park, and you know, so I've loved working with them. That was already on the cards. I was really digging Swift Boy's work and material and her music, and it was so reach out to her and reach out to everyone. It was like, now's the time. If you guys are keen, I'd love to get you on board for this, and then we can start plotting out how to go about releases from there. So yeah, nothing was cemented in terms of a timeline, but it was like, hey, I'm starting this up. Obviously this is a fresh business, it's going to take its time to get its legs. But I'm going to be kicking this off now, and I want to work with you guys and put this out, and you know, they trusted me on that, so we just follow through now and put in the hard work and keep on, you know, getting good music out and supporting the artists as best I can.
Well, if anyone's going to be able to support artists, is the fucking artist himself. You know what I mean? Like, so, you know, because I definitely felt like you know, there is elements of Big Village certainly in Scratches. You know what I mean? It's obviously the part that you brought to it. Just in terms of you know, like upcoming stuff, is there anything particularly that you're excited about coming up coming up to the end of the year? Yeah. And you know, what artists have releases, you know, for 2020? Given all the crazy shit, like, you know, is there anything popping off in 2020?
Best up and coming artist.
Just in general. In Sydney, okay. Tough one, mate. Here we go.
Up and coming. Is Nookie still an up and coming artist? He's
not. Fuck that. That guy's like fucking 300 now. Like,
killing it right now, isn't he? I still see him as young Nookie. Tasman Keith. Yep. You know, 100%. He's nailing it, and he definitely is. I was babysitting Tasman Keith when he was bloody 10 years old. So
this is crazy.
Yeah, Wire MC. Shout out to his dad, like
straight
one of the OGs,
Wire,
Sydney OGs.
100%.
Yeah, so I reckon, man, I just seen his 64 bars the other day was really dope, man. I'm like, I've got to give shouts to Taz. Glow, I'm really loving Glow. Female vocalist, you know, does some really dope MCing as well. She's an amazing performer. Janet Beth, lots of love for her.
Yeah, she's going hard at the minute, eh?
Yeah,
bro, you know her, man, fucking like, Kobe, bro.
Yeah, Kobe, man. Kobe D, man.
Kobe D, bro.
I love that lad. Like, 100%. He's just, leaps and bounds. So,
Storytelling wise, bro. Like,
yeah, no, thanks for throwing that out there
Mm.
hard. Yeah, there's so many dope artists. I guess we could continue. I always get stumped when it comes down to it.
it is, eh?
You know,
'Cause you see-
Hammy's killing.
I was
killing
about
it
to
right
say
now.
Hammy, man. Fuck, shout out to Hammy.
You know, it's great to see that dude smashing it heavily. So that Who Knows crew is definitely bars for days. They're just
It is
blowing
just
it out
bars,
the
eh?
water.
Like, you
Yeah,
have to have your
bars and
listening hat
beats
on.
and bang, like going back to the Blue Mountains after a show we did up there and just like sitting in a room for 5 hours and listening to their tracks back to back was just
You're
my
like-
God, these
Yeah,
guys
you're
are
like,
just
fuck,
relentless.
Taking notes for fucking Scratches Records. Like, get my MCs
Fucking
the
A.
fuck up.
Nah, it was good. Well, it's all extended
Like,
fam,
Hammy,
which is
yeah, like,
which,
yeah,
you
other
know,
side shit.
it's all love. But yeah, I reckon that's a good solid couple right there. You know,
I think they answered the fucking question very well.
Yeah.
But anything, like I said, 2020, you know, is there like releases now? You're sort of putting stuff on a little bit of a hold to go into 2021, or you're not just playing it by ear?
Look, it's hard to. I've been debating in my head and to other people to figure out what's the actual best idea. Do you hold off? When do you put it out? And it's still up in the air to do with particular releases, whether or not we do hold them back till next year or format how we do the release, whether, you know, how we put it out. But no, we're going steady on Platypus and Codex, which is really close to being finished. This production album filled with amazing guests on it. The High Tracks double EP, I think both of them will definitely come out this year, and the rest we'll see. I've got a 7-inch planned for coming out in a couple of months as well with Chris Monkey, who will officially be dropping on the label soon as well, for this release, and no doubt many more. Who's a Bristol producer, DJ, killer lad who's been out in Australia off and on for the last fair few years, now based in Sydney. But yeah, look out for Chris Monkey. Has done some amazing stuff already and will continue to. But yeah, so we got those planned. But the Platypus and Codex one, just to, you know, keep on that. They've put in so much work and got some amazing guests, and you know, it's like we got like even spitting it out. I don't know if I'm allowed to give too much of an in-depth view right now, but there's some cool shit. So
don't put your fucking foot in it right now.
We're dropping
I don't want
to piss
podcast
Cam
to be
off, you know. But you just keep it. But we got Dielectrics on a single coming out in a couple of weeks. So we'll be announcing that officially at the beginning of next week. But yeah, we got Dietrich on the come up again.
Yes, sir.
Which is dope. And he was originally with Platypus and Codex in Down Under Beats crew. First Triple J hip hop unearthing ever for a hip hop act in 2004 or 5, I think it was. So, you know, those OGs are ready to put out their first production album as a brother duo.
Fuck yeah.
And High Tracks have pretty much finished that EP, and we're going to put the double out on Wax as well. So those two, 100%. And then, you know, Violet's getting close to finishing hers. Other Side's on the boil, and the music is amazing. And so, you know, but it's great to see everyone getting really busy, because, you know, it doesn't you don't need to hold stuff on when you're dropping a digital single either, you know.
No, that's
so
right, yeah.
people are still putting out their music right now, but I know people have, like Remy decided to hold his album
off,
and I know artists are deciding to do that, and I think, you know, that's no doubt going to be a smart idea for a lot, and I think there's going to be a lot of crazy Covoid music coming out, you know, real soon, if not
Straight
already.
Yeah.
So I look out for what we do with Scratches, man. It's not going to be the same timeline as we had plotted last year, but has got no one's on the same
knows,
track.
Yeah,
no
100%.
one knows what they're doing.
Exactly, man. Just go with the flow. Now tell me,
there'll be music and there'll be vinyl, and
Fuck yeah.
no doubt. You know?
I was gonna say, you know, back to like because one of my questions was, you know, you're real active on, you know, you seem to get into like festival wise, you know, managed to get in a lot of the local things. You're saying you're doing some little doof gigs back in the day.
I still do.
Fuck
yeah. I love the doofs, man.
How do you? Yeah, it's a time, isn't it?
That's
How
my
do you-
favorite place.
How do you like you know, get those connects? Is that just like fucking word of mouth through the scene? I mean, I know you're an Inner West boy, but particularly things for like brokers, like Newtown Festival now is like insane.
It's huge, mate.
Size
Yeah.
wise, and like to get on that stage,
Yeah.
I mean, you see some pretty prominent fucking bands wanting
Yeah.
to play that stage. How do you still like get involved and build those relationships, or how did you build those relationships?
Well, being consistently in one city for that major part of your life, like I've been hitting up Sydney live circuits since, as I was saying, since 17, and like continuing to meet people. I'm out about. I'm a very social person, so I want to be out at the after party. I want to be down at the
I love
kick
catching
on,
up. I'll see you,
know?
and you'll be like saying hi to like, remember even that other day in the
I know
Lansdowne.
6 people, like-
Yeah, and some guys pull up and be like, "Hey, fuck, how you been?" And be like someone random as well. Like, I don't know, they might be in a fucking suit or a tutu. Who fucking knows? And you'll be like, just kicking
Don't
back.
discriminate, mate.
Yeah, no, of course, right. And that's the beauty of it. Fucking definitely a social person. So it's just through that, like, just keeping those connects.
100%. But then also, making the application form online, or making sure you submit, and
I think that's something that a lot of these new guys are probably not as like that don't know about it. They're not fluent with that sort of
and
shit.
that's it. I mean, there's so many inner circles, and when we're talking about festivals, I'm not down with that festival circuit clique, because I'm not getting played on Triple J at the moment. I'm not, and it is very, that's a big part of it. If you're getting major, even
Festival shit.
they're
You're on those
highly
stations.
linked,
Yeah,
and,
of course.
and even the promoters and the tour managers and those people, they run their own artists a lot of the time too, but they're running amazing performing artists, so don't get me wrong, I'm not dissing out on that, and Triple J are playing amazing artists,
Yeah,
so
it's not about
there is this really inherent link there. So on the fringe circuits of festivals, talking like Pete's Ridge back in the day, or Woodford Festival, or all those down in Melbourne, Rainbow Serpent, like hitting that up every year and jamming with Kodiak Kid or Able 8 from High Tracks, going back there to do these ones, jumping up with Combat Wombat or Astronomy Class, hitting up your bands playing there and see if you could get a ticket and jump on stage with them, and then meeting the promoter out the back. So it's all that type of shit. It's just like constantly being, in there, getting your head in there. And I don't consider it, trying to fucking cushy in and all this shit when
You don't come across as
when
calculated
I'm
for
enjoying
it.
my time and meeting people generally, and then if they can see me doing a good live set, then they're going to book me, and I back myself as a live artist first, foremost, as well as recorded. But I put on a good show, so if they get a hint of that, then I can rock it. And then being able to host over DJ sets, or being able to be varied with the style, like so have Sketch the Rhyme, have Daily Meds, have RP, have my solo stuff, have drum and bass DJs that want to get
Like
me to rap
adaptable,
with
like,
them.
be adaptable.
Have D&B, or have bass, or have dubstep DJs who want me to jump up there, or or have DJs that don't want me to but still grab the microphone anyway. That's still there. So I mean, it's in and out. It's a hustle hard. It's hustle hard, but not to a point where you're beyond what you're enjoying, but just and consistency and applying for those festivals, getting on, figuring out that 2-month gap or month gap where it's actually open for application, putting in an application, repeating that next year, not getting down on it when you don't.
Well, that's true. You got to fucking cop it. No, not
Yeah.
everyone's going to listen to your shit. But like that's actually a funny thing, because when I hear about people, because I've got homies that fucking get like government grants and shit like that. Where did you first like learn about? Because man, I only learned about the application process for some of those festivals only like a couple of years ago.
Well, I guess I was always booking Daily Meds, and I was always booking, like me and Rolio did all the bookings for Daily Meds. I did a lot of the bookings for RP after the first couple of years of it. Like, we still shared a lot of the workload on many different levels, but I did, took it on to do bookings, and then Freshly Squeezed, I was doing those bookings, and through that we were doing events, and I was doing event management for Big Village, so I was covering all the gigs for that, so I'd learn more, about the tours and about how we'd have to get gigs for our artists. So it's just like, going and making those spreadsheets, finding those festivals, putting it on the spreadsheet, hitting them up next year, and just tallying up your gauge of what's out there and how you can potentially hit them up, and having your press pack in line, and having your updated bio, updated press shots, updated links to your music, you know, and just having those things easily accessible so you can just click, paste, bang, fill it out, and just maintain and not feel down if you don't get it, you know, that first time.
There's always going to be that. Yeah,
there's
bro.
Always more, and
I think it's a big thing. But a lot of younger cats, man, like, you know, if they don't see a green light within fucking you know, handful of months, they're sort of just like, nah, fuck it, man. Maybe it's not for me. It's like, bro, you haven't even scratched the surface.
Man, it's definitely an issue, like, that's hard, but it sorts out the people who potentially don't need to be in it if they're not willing to put in, you know, 5-10 years of, you know, feeling
grind.
Like you're not grind to get there. And it's not trying to say this or that. It should be open and more accessible to everyone, the music scene. It should be open to more minorities. It should be open to females and all different people for all different backgrounds. It should be like, you know, and it shouldn't be so closed off within inner circles and circle jerks of business industry types and shit like that. It should, you know, but it's not. But but it is getting there.
Yeah.
And we're trying.
But it's sort of like, man, big ups, like for people like yourself though. But fucking lead them by that example, showing people that, yo, like, I'm a normal dude. Shit can be done. You know what I mean? For anyone that's willing to listen, and I think that this is why, like, even just this fucking platform and having people listen to this, and I know there's going to be artists that are going to tune in and be like, yo, there's a fucking application for that? Yeah, you know what I mean? And like, that's stuff, like, it's not that you're not readily available to fucking teach that shit, but if that stuff's not going to come up or isn't a question for you, it's also not, you know what I mean? Then they're not going to be educated on it.
Well, there's some festivals that obviously don't.
Of course.
Accept applications, but there are a lot that are, and that's the ways to get noticed by those
other festivals
as well, you know. I was just looking at a photo from Come Together in 2011, which was great because Triple J put us on that, and they get those up-and-coming unearthed artists, and then when they're popping, they're like promoting those young artists and getting them in. But if you've also got to be putting in the work as an artist to show, I've got, you know, I'm putting out content, I'm putting out good quality music, I've got, you know, doing my things professionally, I've got tours gigged, I've got, you know, shows get booked and things like this. So it's like, it's all hand in hand. And the more I realized when we put out the Daily Med CD in 2010, and that was before Big Village started, so it was like April 2010. When we did that, it was like the whole industry for at least my scope of the industry was like, okay, we'll help you out now. It was like, oh, we'll put you on this gig, or we'll do this for you now because you're doing it yourself, and you're like, you put the CD out, and it's like, well, we'll get you this support, you know. Or Trent's like, we'll get you on the premiere, you know, Beat Nuts gig, or Randy's like, you know, we'll get you on the, you know, this gig over at the Metro, and you know, it's like, and then, you know, the radio, we'll put you on the radio, things like that. But then you're also putting out you're putting out a publicity, you know, you're putting out your statements, you're sending them out, you're mailing them out, and you're covering all angles, and you're postering the walls, and you're flyering every bloody place that you go to. You're standing on the street, rapping it, motherfuckers. Take my flyer. Take this now. And I think anyone who knows me from back in the day knows I had a flyer attached to my
very
hand,
fucking hand to hand with you, bro.
Yeah,
100%. Hey, what about? I got to ask you. You know the fucking rooftop?
Yes.
Do you get paid for the rooftop? Bro,
I got a nickel.
That is the most hoard out rooftop I've ever seen.
I still live there, okay? It's still mine. Don't speak
I'm not, but it is like in the best way. Like that, you know, it's almost become a fucking staple visual for a lot of shit. Like, bro, like, what are some things that have gone through there? Because I see like fucking professional photo shoots. I see like fucking old mates clip here, fucking rock clip here, fucking rock rap clip here.
Yeah.
Like, what's the deal with it? Have you got it on a fucking website like dope spot to film?
No, it's like, well, it's like,
and it changes up all the time. You guys are painting all the time.
Sydney's, you know, cultureless, bloody stripped back, you know,
landscape, barren wasteland.
It's like, well, here's some, you know, little crazy mirage in the middle of it that's just filled with paint, you know. So speaking about Hibernian, the rooftop up there, so it's like I Yeah, no, it's just, draws people, it draws creatives, and as soon as you get in there, you're like, wow, how does this even exist? Everything looks like a film set,
Yes.
And so yeah, I mean, we got in early because Rappaport, the Phonies, were rehearsing there. Sketch the Rhyme was doing all our gigs there, and then we started the Big Village label base there, so our home base there. So we're doing all that, but yeah, I mean, Schemo, Cursor, everyone's,
Schemo.
from, One Lane is doing a lot of stuff there because he's got his studio downstairs, Malik.
Yeah, Malik's down
shout
there,
out, legend.
Yeah.
So he's getting more MCs coming in to do stuff there now as well.
There's a lot of people, bro,
there's lots
going
of
through there, and what's crazy about that is like, because there is that like street rap, like the gutter sort of, almost, I don't want to say gutter anymore, like, because Schemo really was that vibe, but it's almost like sharpened a bit now. It's got to be more of a polish to it, and it's crazy to see such a
100%.
almost like an indie vibe with you guys, and then to have such a bit of a harder sort of element, but still come together in that same creative space.
Well, look, when Malik moved into the building, shout out to One Lane, hustle hard. He hit me up straight away and was like, yo, I'm moving in, like, what's the vibe? And he was in constant contact with me, so it was really nice to have him come in and just like always be checking in, and offering him advice about the real estate and about the building, about the people in there, and just things like that. And then always inviting us down to come chill. And he got us on Hustle Hard back in, like, when we were supporting Wu-Tang out the back. We did a little video for him. So I met him years ago, and he's always been a legend, and we'd run into each other on the street because he had a studio up the road.
Yep.
So yeah, it was like natural. And like the lads he brings around, I know half of them. If I don't meet them, they're all legends. And
Speaking of which, T-Rex, I was just on the phone with him before. He said, "What's up?"
Yeah,
he's
sick.
been
Sick.
through
I
there a
seen
little
him there
bit.
the other day.
Yeah.
Coming up. So it's good to see some heads. I've only said hello to Rops a couple times when he's been there, but he was kicking it out the front all the time. And then I got a matey who's friends with one of my housemates. I was like, you know who that is? And people were like freaking out. It's
It's crazy though, right?
Royalty up in here now. I'm like, it's always had history in the building, so it's nice to, and I see Fort's running there. I saw
Fort's
him.
in there a lot.
And then bloody I've managed to meet Husky through the spot as well. Like Nookie brought him up the other day because they were recording down there as well. So it's like, it's cool that's there. I really like it. And he's such a professional about how he goes about stuff and how he sounds. So everyone's on their best behaviour down there too, because they want to make sure they're.
A lot of people have respect
they got mad respect for him
in the way that he's like, he's about his business, and he doesn't want to have it coming off fucking half cocked. You know what I mean?
100% with everything that he does. So yeah, if anything, that's just added to the culture, and
straight up,
and brought some more life to that building,
and
expanded it out from its initial Surrey Hills vibe, because it was definitely had its own wanky Surrey Hills vibe there too, that I was like, so Newtown, I'm like, oh, what's this wanky? And they're like, oh, you guys are all sick arty legends as well, But it also had like this undercurrent, and you always feel like it's, a little bit behind, but it's open to everyone, and that's the vibe, even though people trying to kick you out for graphing there every 5 seconds, or it's got its, I don't know. The building is an amazing building. It's an amazing building, and I still love it. And I've been there for 10 years. I'm still loving the joint.
Love that shit. What about Is there any what sort of question?
Yeah,
well, fucking. I was gonna ask. Well, I got one quick question. The one take. What was that clip? That one take clip.
Which one? Oh, the fam, Rappaport fam.
Yeah. It was just fucking one
and he
sequence.
starts at the front.
He walks out.
The the roof.
How many takes is that one take?
I think about 6.
Fuck, is that
7? And then that was probably like the 5th or something. Like it was really prepared.
Yes.
Well,
No, look that way.
And Gabe Gasper, shout out, amazing videographer.
Yeah.
So he nailed that, and Joel put in a lot of prep for that. So. As again, I rocked up on the day, and I think I lived there anyway. I didn't rock up. I was there.
Yeah, we all there. Sitting on the couch. Oh, okay, we're gonna start.
It's time to wrap.
Yeah.
So
Okay, what's the question?
Claim much on that. Yeah, sweet.
Shit.
Can you tell us what Score Skate has done for the music industry?
Yeah, well, Skay's been around.
Big Skay.
Subconscious Records.
Yep.
He's held down all those MCs and that extended fam plus so many other people in the Sydney scene. You know, from his mixtapes that he put out, we got on both of those back in the day. To, you know, doing live sets, to putting out, you know, tunes and just backing up people for sets constantly. And, you know, as an old school grapher as well.
He's slappers,
he's
man.
been
His stickers are
around
fucking everywhere.
He's been around for a long time, and he's always been the loveliest dude. So I've got
Yeah.
to give nothing but props for Skay is a G, and to the Subconscious crew. You know, rest in
Yeah.
peace, Skeppers,
100%.
my bro, and big ups to Deceiver. He's just started a new podcast himself. But yeah, Free Booze and Bocky got me on a new track soon. Shout outs to Maniac on that. But yeah, Skay, he's been a figurehead. And, you know, an older brother for a lot of crew, and held it down for a lot of people, and will continue to, no doubt, for a long time. So, yeah.
He's not going nowhere.
Love that lad. Yeah.
Next.
Any chance of another reverse polarity album?
Man, look, I'd never say never, but it'll probably be a fair time in the making. I guess, like, as I said, that was from around 2003 when I linked up with Mute, and not too long after that we formed, you know, this in a western suburbs connect that, you know, at one point had about 9 of us rocking on stage, you know, and it was really multicultural, you know, Deathless, we had Lebanese, South African connection, we had, like, it was a really mad vibe. And at the time, it's like we did that release in 2009, then we put out our official release in 2014 on Big Village, plus countless mixtapes. I think we all were really like, wow, okay, we done our job. Mute went and had a couple of beautiful children, and Kit's now living overseas. He eloped, Kit complete. So I think it might be a bit of a while, and everyone goes on their separate paths. But, you know, look, I'd never say never on anything.
Never
Time
say
will tell, you
never,
know. But I think you might be waiting a fair while, to tell you the truth.
Got some other shit to do.
But each individual artist, you know, is still kicking ass, and everyone's got a lot to give on that too, you know. So yeah, time and a place for things, and yeah, I think one thing just on that question is go check that Reverse Polarities album we put out in 2014, because we sort of decided to stop performing after we did the tour for that. And, you know, same with Meds and Sour Milk. It was like those albums that got slept on, and they were such fucking good albums.
Bro.
And that RP album, I'm
It's funny how
so proud that we got it out, and I'm so happy with it. It's like diverse and heavy and hard hitting. But it's still there, and it'll live on. I think is a really amazing album, you know, with some really cool people and thoughts on it. So yeah, for those who haven't even heard that album, go check that one out. On the contrary, it's online, it's streamable and all that. But yeah, it might be a while till we get back on the RP tip, but you never know. Yeah. Sick. Yeah.
We'll get, because I got a little bit more, but yeah. No, but that's fine. No, because it's interactive. We want these motherfucking questions.
Yeah, they gotta
answered.
know. The people need to
But
know.
I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to re-ask the question just so they know what the question is. Yeah. So what's the question?
So it was, if you could speak to your younger self, what would you tell yourself?
So if you could speak to your younger self, what would you tell yourself?
Do less drugs.
I was going to say, like, get absolutely buckled
actually,
less.
do more. No.
More kick-ons.
Look, yeah, more kick-ons, less punch-ons. I think that's a reoccurring theme.
Yeah.
What would I tell my younger self? I'd say you're doing really good. Stop stressing your
Fucking
ass
hell.
off. You know, don't sacrifice, you know, your personal relationships for you know, this kind of necessity or need to do something for, I don't know, for this greater cause or something, or stress. Just be happy of who you are and what you're doing, and
That's a
don't
big
be
one,
so
man.
focused on
I think
doing
it's
it
hard
for
though, right?
anyone else or
Yeah.
anything else. But
Mm.
you know, and yeah, take care of yourself and don't give yourself so much pressure and stress, because there's times there was cracking and almost, you know, and using alcohol and you know, MDMA as a way to sort of keep my sanity and keep
Yeah.
calm, you know, just because I was running the
Down the anxiety.
candle at both ends, you know, whereas the ways to combat that are to be healthier, to go through those emotions, to talk about it, to be able to, you know, deal with the issues at the time in a sober state, you know, instead of just
that's powerful,
doubling
man.
up, doubling up on shit, you know.
Because you just push it to the side, and it's inevitable. It's going to come back, right?
100%, and it's never, you never feel good. You feel anxious the next day, you know, but you can get rid of it at the time. So I probably would say, you know, maybe tone down shit slightly, but at the same time, it made me, you know, who I am.
As well.
And so I'd say you're doing good, you know, doing good, calm down, and
keep going.
And yeah, keep going. You're gonna
Fucking
be all right.
yeah.
You know, you're gonna be sitting there at 32 with Lee Monro going, "Shit's cool, man. Don't stress. You'll be all right. You got another 32 years. You're gonna be doing this. It's gonna be fine." Yeah, and yeah, just and to say, you know, make sure you're good to those, you know, those people, because I probably could have spent, you know, a little bit more time focusing on why I was doing it and the relationships with the people that I was doing it with, you know, because sometimes when things are getting big, you know, there's all these other pressures, and you know, you're trying to do this and trying to fill so many hats, you know, you lose sight of why you're doing it, which is to jam with your crew and jam with your mates and make some good quality music. But I guess beyond that, RP was, you know, there's a reason behind you doing it as well, because the pressure was on. Mute was like, we're here to put a message out. We're here to say things that need to be said that aren't getting covered by other artists. And you know, I've continued that in my music, you know, as much as possible, while still retaining my own individual self and being fun and being able to do different styles. But yeah, like the pressure is there, and I think that's also good to run on, because you should feel as an artist you have a responsibility to do that and to be able to use that privilege that you have to have a microphone, or to be a white Australian rapper, the privilege that I have to be able to speak to so many people who will listen to me ahead of other people. You know, if I don't use that for the right purposes, then I'm, you know, you're not utilizing, you know, the gift that I've been, you know, given and that I'm rolling with. So yeah, I mean,
that's funny though. I actually might use that question too, because I've got this here, right? Like, one thing about you is that you're an activist. You don't just sit on your hands. You know, that responsibility piece, bro. That took me personally as an MC, even because I used to flow American and I wasn't even speaking like in my natural tongue. And I know that debate's sort of deaded now, and no one really gives a shit, and that's fine. But I think for me personally, right? Like I was like, yo, actually, there's a responsibility that I'm starting to have, and I see like young dudes coming up and maybe not being embracive or like really just embracing of who they are and their identity. So I was like, yo, but if I'm not leading, then, you know, then what do I expect, you know, for them? And I suppose, you know, going back to you, you're not just, like I say, an MC that sleeps on your hands or sits on your hands. You're fucking out there. You're an activist, bro. You know, I've seen you out in Hyde Park for fucking, you know, obviously with all the shutdown shit that keeps in the open stuff, you know, fucking freestyling on the corner there. It was still pissing down rain, I believe. And, you know, you're out there for Indigenous rights and, you know, just equality is a big part of what you do. So, you know, how do you use your voice and influences, you know, and stuff to get involved and you know, what sort of strengths of yours do you use that you're sort of most proud of? Because, you know, I heard you say that privilege thing there, and that's a big thing that a lot of people don't fucking absorb. It's like, yo, it's a privilege to be who the fuck we are, the color that we are, and the fucking position that we're in, to say the shit that we got to say. Yeah,
and to be accepted into particular cultures and communities that will, you know, school me up and educate me, and so I can also use that to be able to go and speak that out. I think being open to, you know, all different walks of life and being able to expose yourself to all different walks of life to be able to say that story, because that's what it's about. But I think, you know, I'm blessed to be able to grow up with the folks I did. You know, my mum was a domestic violence worker, you know, drilled crazy shit into me, stories. You know, I grew up around, you know, in Urco, around, you know, some pretty crazy times in the 90s, and, you know, it was a different spot back then as well, and in 2000s, and like see lots of different things. But then also just the more I school myself on the history of Australia and actually go, what am I, how can we be so, you know, whitewashed,
ignorant and fucking whitewashed, straight up.
And
it's mind-blowing.
You know, that is my responsibility to learn more about that and being able to, you know, speak that out, because a lot of people, you know, aren't exposed or even exposed to that way of thinking. Well, I'm blessed to be open to that and to have dug through that. So it's like, yeah, to be able to then learn more about that and open that up, because, you know, people don't want to be ignorant. People don't want to be hateful. I don't think generally it comes from being scared or being, you know, a bit of lack of knowledge and you know, being open to those types of things. But I think, you know, just pushing through on that and making sure that's on my main agenda is to remember that there's a reason that I'm here and that I've got a mic and that I've got to use it properly, you know, because that's a big thing about telling a story. And yeah, I mean, some of the best artists to do that, you know, that I love do that as well. So, you know, that's the style. But I love flexing and rhyming. But yeah, but being out there, getting on the microphone and being out there and
present.
Yeah, you've got to be at those protests. You can't just do that just because you're online. You know, it doesn't mean you're there. You still got to lay out. You've got to show that people power and use your.
That's another
effort,
level of support,
you know?
though. You know, like, I mean, you know, there's fuck a lot between talk and action. You know, and to be there and active and live, man. There's a lot of action, man. So like, fucking big ups for that. I
appreciate it, man.
And it's fucking good to see, man.
I'm
it's inspiring.
So I've got it, you know. And
well, you know, but that being said, there's also a lot of people that just fucking flat out don't. And like, you know, I see a lot of people living in fucking ignorance is bliss land, and I feel as though, you know, sometimes that message can be lost. So mad props.
Cheers,
like, I've got a couple of things left, but not heaps. But have you got some more questions? No. That's all G's. Let's go with some questions, ladies and gentlemen. Whatever fucking camera I'm looking at. Yo. What else we got?
I don't know if this paper's from Grxnd. Is the guy who works at the spit shop your brother?
Is the guy that works up, you want to repeat that? Is the guy that works up the stitch up in Newtown my cousin brother? No, he's an old Urco boy and he is another Ranger. Shout outs to my man Ranger. Yes,
shit,
Velens. Yes. You know who it is. Look, he was the only other redhead family in the street. Yeah. So he was down the road. Him and Katie Velens and young
I think
Zach.
he just got like a sort of red hue. Like, it's not really.
I'm popping out.
Don't gesture like that.
You know what it is. Come on.
I don't need to ask the questions.
Mate.
What's the next?
Fan of pants. I got all the names for it. Nah, he's not. He is my brother, but he's not official. I don't know how
Brother
far removed,
but
no. Shout out to the Stitch Up in Newtown, amazing second-hand clothes store that you know, popped off around the same time Scratches did last year, and he has been my brother since I was a young little lad, and that is true. Like you notice that freckly redheaded kid who keeps popping up down the road. So I've known Alan since down the road, and he's a good friend. But we'll say we're brothers, no doubt. You know, yeah.
Dope. Next.
Who would you and have you done any collabs with international artists? And have you ever performed out?
Have you done collabs with international artists, and have you performed out of Australia?
I did. We did a collab with Arkil from Jurassic 5 on the Daily Meds Happy Days release in 2012, which was amazing. And Montage, one on a mixtape we put out on Daily Meds. So Montage is an LA MC that came out with Evidence when we supported him back in the day. So that was really dope. Joe Snow, I guess, my bro from Pang Productions. He's a Leeds lad from Defenders of Style. He's been living out here. He's on Scratches, Pang Production. So yeah, some English, connect there. But like, I guess in terms of higher profiled artists, probably Arkil was the main one. And then, collabed on, a few different joints here and there. I'm thinking performance-wise, went over to America 3 years ago and non-officially played in Long Island, which was fun. I did like a 15-minute set at a little throwdown night there, which was really cool. And then jumped up at Burning Man a couple of times, performed at Oregon Eclipse Festival with a DJ called Sarah Connor.
What?
At Oregon Eclipse. That was sick. Yeah, Burning Man on the back of a fucking double-decker bus converted into a bloody dragon with Julian Dysphemic. So did a
Bro,
drum and
what
bass
the
set over there
fuck?
with him, which was sick. I
Even
was
just hearing this is
so
like-
sick.
MDMA was certainly consumed at this time because that was not a converted bus, my friend.
Oh, when I was saying stuff like that, I would never go back on my hallucinogens, by the way, you know. But be careful, kids, because you don't want to be doing too much of that shit. It's dark. But generally, stay off the meth. Please stay off the meth, everyone. And,
Kids,
and
P.Smurf
the
said,
smack,
stay off the meth.
and the farmies. And
Huh?
the farmies.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
And the farmies.
We'll
mate.
just
Stay
have it
off
on
the
repeat.
farmies.
Kids, stay off the meth. Let's just on repeat. Bop, bop, bop.
green, stay green. Green is
Stay
the way to go.
green. Al natural.
But yeah, like, I mean, yeah, that was crazy over in Burning Man. Like, USA was insane. And so to be able to get a bit more of a touch on the culture in New York.
Straight up, man. When you go see the culture firsthand in the States, your respect for it just fucking goes through the roof. Right?
Yeah. Like, my respect for America as a whole didn't necessarily, because it's just such an intense place, but it opened my eyes to it and allowed me to see a little bit more about something that I've been bombarded with culturally for my entire life. So, but like, respect for the people, and that city is bloody amazing. So yeah, to end the question, I haven't in Indonesia, I performed at a bunch of bars over there, just like jamming out with bands, and got to meet this really cool band over there and jam with them, which was fun, through Bali. And then Sulawesi at a Eclipse Festival over there. I got to have a jam over there. But yeah, nothing like a proper tour yet.
No headlines yet. See that? Yeah.
Nah, just been put my stuff together as I go on the fly. And but yeah, we will be doing that. We will be doing that soon, you know.
Fuck yeah. Next. That was it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that's all right. We don't need to hear all the comments. I'm sure we can see those later, you sexy bastards. Anyway, cool. So, I mean, we've sort of touched on, you know, acts that you sort of watch locally.
Oh, can I just shout out Death Wish Cast though? Because I didn't.
Straight
I didn't
up.
chuck them in on that. I was saying The Herd definitely was that first initial connect, and then you mentioned when I said those artists, a lot of Melbourne artists. But one of the cool stories about Death Wish, my man Akira, who runs Route 66, that old lad, he's one of my oldest friends. He come back to school one day and was like, man, it was like 15. He's like, I saw this group. They're like superheroes. They're like wearing capes or something. They're doing all these b-boy moves, and they're rapping. They're like rappers, and like the way he described it to me was literally, it felt like a comic book, you know. I'm just and they're performing and they're going out and they're doing all these hardcore moves, and then to start listening to them, and then to go, you know, meet them through the scene, meet Sarek through the scene, and start seeing them perform. That was a whole other eye-opener of professionalism and class and dedication to the
execution, bro.
And like,
I think execution, when I think of just like fucking sharp execution, like fucking look at those cunts and what they're doing and sort of start to know what you had to start doing.
Oh man,
do you know what I mean? Like,
one of the best live shows, hands down, and just like consistency and quality, you know. So yeah, to throw back, and just that, you know, knowing that deeply rooted connection in Sydney hip hop is amazing for, you know, Basic Equipment crew and beyond. Big up, shouts to Basic Equipment. You know?
That's a bit of a measure as well. Like, you know, if you ever see at your gig one of the Death Wish boys, you're like, yo, I made it.
Yeah, bro. Holy shit. And it freaks people out. They're like, is that, oh shit. You know, I remember Context did a set at my warehouse, and he's like, you know, he was like, just stepped up his game as soon as he saw Paulie in the audience.
Straight up.
But yeah, shout out to Death Wish and Dicey and Sarek and Murder One.
Fucking oath.
Boom, boom. And Tommy Rock, my man. Tommy
bro,
Rock,
Tom
the
Rock.
G. Tommy Rock from as a West Connect. Like I've known him since I met Mute, you know. And Mick and all that, you know.
And
he's
Tom's been a fucking legend.
And he's been holding it down for, you know, hardcore classic radio. So yeah, shouts to that lad who's another major influence for me. You know?
Still going strong, like still kicking the freestyles and the ciphers down there on Hardcore Classic.
100%.
Now, I mean, I've sort of asked that as well, like, you know, so what's in store for you? So that's all good. You've got the 7-inch and all that.
Yeah.
So we'll just wrap it up, bro. But man, fuck. thank you so much for coming through, man. It's been really dope and insightful, and man, again, like inspiration in many ways, bro. And fucking, you know, stand up leader, good person. Fucking love to see people like yourself in positions of you know, influence. You know, not just musically. You know,
Right back at you, man.
with some other shit. And you know, with your activist sort of stuff and just getting out there. But socials, bro, like, and I got to give you props because, and you know, you'll hit me up like, yo, can you tag the right pages? And can you, you know, you were checking me on my game and like, you know, this sort of stuff. Like, this is the first fucking podcast I've ever done or whatever.
Killing it.
But, man, we'll put all the links, but where can people find you and hit you up?
Well, check us out on MCPSMURF, MC P.Smurf on Instagram or Facebook. www.scratchesrecords.com. Set up by our boy over there. Yeah, behind the camera right now.
Molotov.
Yeah, Molotov. And yeah, so you check us on Scratches Records, and yeah, and on the Facebook and Instagram. And yeah, just while we're here, big shout out to Sam Clouston, my go-to on all Scratches Records. He's been such an amazing, you know, backbone for us and to help us with all the visual arts and just as a go-to generally. Shout outs to all the Scratches crew, all the Sydney crew, and all the, you know, all my Melbourne, all my Queensland fam, or WA fam, you know, SA everywhere, you know. Big ups. I appreciate everyone for their support, and thanks for getting us out for this, man.
Man, my pleasure. All right, COVID handshake. You know the vibes.
Yeah,
All right, sick. All
word
right.
'em up.
And we're done.
Cheers for having us.